Benjamin, my first boyfriend, Benji, although he preferred to go by B, not the insect, the letter. We met in 1989 in Los Angeles. I was 15 and he was 18, and he was a thing of beauty. Decked out in the 1980s gangbanger, 50s greaser hybrid that was so popular in the late 80s and early 90s. He wore jeans that were at least 5 sizes too big, with tight-fitted T-shirts underneath perfectly ironed vintage bowling shirts, steel-toe work boots, wraparound Ray-Bans before the Terminator franchise made those cliche, creative facial hair before hipsters made those cliche, and full-sleeve tattoos, gothic, tribal, Asian pinup girl before those were cliche, although I think those were probably always cliche, frankly. We were exact opposites. I was a do-gooder, rule follower, the valedictorian of our high school, and he had been kicked out of our high school for truancy and fighting. We did have one thing in common, though. Neither of us drank. I didn't drink because I was pathologically afraid of embarrassing myself, and he didn't drink because between the ages of 11 and 16, he had an impressively mature substance abuse problem. So many of our dates included late-night AA meetings. These meetings in Los Angeles were packed with the young, sober, beautiful, rockabilly, hot rod-loving, lived hard but lived to tell about it crowd. And for them, respect was a huge issue for these young men and women. They were sober, but they still had a lot of anger issues, and they were really unpredictable. So any act of disrespect was handled swiftly and unequivocally with violence. So if you were going to come to the meeting and clown around or make out or whatever, you best keep it in the parking lot. But if you were going to be inside, you smoke, listen, be quiet, you were welcome. So B never shared at any of these meetings, but he listened intensely, with a cigarette suspended from his bottom lip, mindlessly flicking the engraved Zippo that had been his dad's, open and closed, open and closed, open and closed. We'd only been dating about 3 weeks before I had a pretty bad medical scare and had to be hospitalized. I was in a lot of pain, and I was heavily medicated most of the time. But he didn't care. He came to visit me every single day. He'd bring me gifts, scented candles, fuzzy socks, scrunchies, all items that he may or may not have shoplifted. But he'd come there and he would spend hours. He'd settle on the bed next to me and let me rest my head on his chest for hours and hours. And with his left arm, he'd prop up a pillow and keep an ice pack right on the back of my neck. And with his right arm then, he was free to flip channels on TV or look at magazines. He had a lot of friends, and they would come by in packs during the day when my friends were at school or my parents were at work. And they'd pull all the chairs in the room over to his side of the bed, and they'd all speak really quietly. On one of these visits, I was pretty knocked out, but I could still hear them. They talked for a while about one of the old cars that they were rebuilding together, and then finally one of his friends got up the courage to ask the question. So, what's wrong with Meg? And B answered without fear or melodrama, those headaches she gets, one got really bad, it hurt her brain. So she lost all feeling and can't move the lower half of her body. And then a voice I had heard before, but I didn't quite recognize said, wait, what? The bottom half of her body is broken? That's the best half. Oh, shit. I just kept my eyes closed and played dead. It was silent for a second, and then, in rapid succession, I heard 2 chairs screech across the linoleum. I heard 3 distinct metal clicks, metal on metal, like angry quarters hurling themselves into pinball machines. B shifted his weight, and I heard a Zippo strike open on his thigh, and then the flint wheel connect with his jeans in like a solid upward motion, and then that inhale of a perfect strong flame. And then I heard something like a water balloon being smacked, and somebody gasped, and then one set of footsteps ran out of the room. And then it was silent again. And the chairs all scratched back into place. And they went back to talking. One of them said, "Yo, that's fucked up, man. Meg's cool as shit." And B said, "That fool's a turd." And then they went back to talking about the car. Benji and I went out for 3 years, and I was sick for most of it. But he learned how to administer my medication, how to help me bathe, dress, go to the bathroom. He held my hair when I vomited. He held my hand when I cried. None of it mattered. To him, I was strong and I was beautiful. We broke up when I went away to college, but he did give me that Zippo. And I had never told him that I heard what had happened. I'd never asked him what happened. But he said when he handed me that Zippo, he said, "This is for, just in case you have to burn something. But mostly so you don't forget me." And I never have.